of God will demand a new version of you. This is why progressively you are supposed to be growing in keeping to pace with the very purpose of God per time and per season for your life. Many moves. Some of us have been blessed by different vessels of God across various stages of our lives. And something that characterizes the burden, the cry, and the desire of the elders, if you have had the opportunity to drink from their wells, you would realize that in the height of their labors in the spirit is a desire, a quest to see a generation rise, a generation that communicates accurately the dimensions of God that they could not press and they could not enter. Many of the times, the embargo is not even seen because various purposes of God are reserved for various dispensations. There are moves that are reserved for a people. For example, you hear Papa Abraham telling the rich man in the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Here in the underworld where the rich man was now in anguish and torment because of the flames of hell, his one cry was no longer for himself. He begged Papa Abraham, can you send a prophet from this realm? Let him go and warn my brothers. I agree that my own fate is doomed, but let salvation come from my household. Papa Abraham said, they have Moses, they have Elijah and the prophets with them. If they will not listen to the living, even if a dead man rises and preaches this same gospel, their heart will still be hardened. You know, every generation have their prophets. Every dispensation have their witnesses. It has been ordained from the studios of eternity that when a people like this will emerge, their ministers will emerge with them. In the various hospitals where children are born, it is only from the lens of humanity that you look upon them as helpless infants. Among those helpless children you see there are prophets born. There are apostles born. There are kingdom financiers born. Treasures captured in earthen vessels, not looking like what they truly are. But there are journeys laid in the paths of ordination that will help them become all that they were ordained to be if they align to the program of God. That is why God can never be in short supply of vessels. The reason is that there are always vessels measured into every era. It is an error for our generation to not have effective witnesses that communicate the gospel in the peculiar area of need of this generation. This is a very cerebral generation. It's a very intellectual generation. Some of the things that fly before, it will not fly now again. If you come and you are talking stories and you are not able to articulately present the gospel beyond reasonable doubt, your pews will be empty. It's not business as usual. It's the same old message, the same old emphasis, but the methods are changing. And so it's not the same, old pathway, business as usual. You are not learning anything. You are not evolving in any area. You are not learning any new song. Everything is as it was from the beginning. So it shall be ever after. You will realize that your relevance will fizzle out with time. Because every dispensation have their own prophets. And the reason why I made this little deviation to introduce what God will have us contemplate on tonight, because I heard from a young man who is supposed to be a part of our generation, and I saw that it has become a popular thing. Someone who should be burdened, someone whose strength is supposed to be his advantage, because that's what the youth have. He began to also say there is a generation rising, that there is a generation coming. So while we are young, we have been bedeviled by spiritual paralysis. It's a spiritual ailment by which, although you are alive, you already know that you cannot fulfill the demand of God for your life again. While you are still breathing, while you are still young, you already know that you have journeyed much in the path of iniquity. A knowing inside you is echoing a truth to you that you can no longer prosecute the will of He that sent, at least to the extent that it was required of you. So we begin to look for alternative destinies. But that which is the burden of God, that resonates with our soul, that is the essence of our existence, something in us already tells us we cannot fulfill that mandate anymore. So a young man is saying, a generation is rising. Like prison houses, like chains that prisoners are trapped in. Our pleasures have become our chains. Our appetites have become the lock Satan used to trap our ordinations from finding expression. The reason why I am not in any way open to, being sympathetic with whatever excuse you have for the reason why you cannot manifest after the order of God's calling for your life is because I know that you were trapped by pleasure. I know that you chose pleasure against your manifestation. I have studied these things over and over again. There is nothing Satan can lock you inside that you did not like. It was your interest that made you a victim. It was your joy, your appetite that made you a prisoner. So who is it that wants to follow me, says Jesus? Let him deny himself. The enemy is not Satan, it's you. You are the one that you love something above God. When you see a man always complaining that it's not easy, but it not be firewood, it's not easy. It is your love for immorality, your love for sex, your love for pleasure. It will make God's word become nothing in the face of your appetite. And then we come and shed crocodile tears for the sake of emotional satisfaction. One of these days you will want to cry, no tears will come out again. That's when it will become clear to you that, Kai! So now, I don't go far like this. You will play that worship song that used to make you feel sorrowful. As you play it, it will be sounding like noise. One of these days. It means that gradually there's an echo, a whisper from the throne eternal towards you. It's called Ichabod. The glory has departed. Something that used to cover you before like a mist, it has lifted from you. So you will move like Samson. Unknown to you, the hand of God that was responsible for the exploit you continue to demonstrate, it has lifted from you. Because we have journeyed long and much and consciously, deliberately in iniquity. So now we relegate our destiny to another generation and we say a generation is rising. Because we know that we are not willing, number one, to keep motions with the movement of God. We are not willing to replicate the consecrations that are necessary for manifestation. And we are not willing to pay the price it will take for us to bear the Holy Testament of God. So we relegate. Just as we heard over our own life that a generation will rise. Now, you too, you are prophesying another generation. That was how many of us were born. That was how we were given responsibilities that were supposed to be prosecuted in generations before us. That is how many things are hanging over people now that generations before them should have labored and completed. It was David that fought the war. He gave peace to Solomon. There are many people here. You are already on your expressway to transfer warfare to your children. Transfer battles to your children. Something you are supposed to conquer in your days, you allowed iniquity to prosper over your vessel. Now your children are born into captivity. Children that don't even know the difference between right and wrong, they are already shaped towards iniquity. Their natural disposition is already tilted towards compromise. They were born with chains on their hand because a gullible generation opened the door to corruption. We have the impetus to say a generation is rising. So what is the use of your own life? Why is bread still on your nostrils if you have retired from the war of destiny? If nothing from you can create any ventilation for your generation. Do I even go ahead to share how irresponsible the average Christian has become? He believes that the things captured in scripture are speaking about some selected few. He believes that if you are not an apostle, a prophet, a teacher, an evangelist, a pastor, that these things does not talk to him. Meanwhile, these fivefold, the offices, they were given for the equipping of the saints. It is to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. Now, how many church member is a minister? He comes to sit down on a chair and get up after 2 hours to go back to captivity, leave that same cycle, return on Sunday again, do that from January till December, always a prisoner, never able to live free. And every year we come to prepare to carry another new sticker, 2026, my year off. Which of the year ever happened in your life? It was never a challenge for anybody. You see, it was Albert Einstein that says, only a fool continues to do things the same way and expect a different result. For somebody here tonight, I'm trying to tell you that you are the only option God has. He did not plan for your replacement. The kind of things wired into you, it was like, if you fail, a generation is compromised. A generation is rising. A generation is rising. Where you that you are young, why can't you rise? You can't pray at night. You can't pray at the day. Okay, we agree that at night you said you don't want to disturb anybody and you don't want any attack, so you want to mind your business. What about during the day? When you meet a pastor that is not praying, when you meet a minister that does not pray, he becomes unqualified to pastor a praying church. If you have an active prayer life and you come under him, your fire will go off. He will drag you down to his realm. You have a people who ought to be consumed with the will, the desire, the zeal of the house of the Lord. He ought to consume them. A young believer is already fulfilled and satisfied. So satisfied. You see him so comfortable about the state of his spirituality. That hunger that causes for contention in the spirit, that makes one chase after God, they don't sustain it. They are fulfilled. May God show us his mercy tonight. I'm already suspecting that if nothing is done, I'm suspecting that we are that generation that will curse their fathers. And the curse will not be an utterance from your lip. The curse is your way of life. Your life started making it look like the elders lied about their testimonies. Now open the books that history documented about the literal lives of these people. When you read Catherine Kuhlman, read Amy Semple McPherson, read Madame Goulion, then look at the average lady. It will look like those people exaggerated. It's a lie. This is what Jesus was trying to call you when he says, ye shall be witnesses unto me. He is saying you will be the proof that what I said is not a lie. And the only way you will be a proof is that your life will be a theater communicating the realities of these things that were written aforetime. Now, who is a witness? We have many title men, but no witness. Who is a witness that God is a healer? And I mean repeatedly putting that dimension to display. Who is a witness in that regard? All we are doing is just personnel management, and we are just doing cover-ups here and there. Go and put your ears to the average church and hear the kind of corruption Here are the cases of abomination. This is supposed to be a person that is under treatment, a person who eats the hallowed bread of God week in, week out. But part of the scariest cases of corruption is heard from the church. The Lamb of God will demand a new version of you. This is why progressively you are supposed to be growing in keeping to pace with the very purpose of God per time and per season for your life.